So the Ahsoka Tano show featured a lot of characters that originated in Star Wars animation, and it isn't just Ahsoka. Like, fucking Obi-Wan did it, Mandalorian did it, Book of Boba Fett did it. So they've been doing it a lot recently, so I thought it'd be fun to rank all the characters that originated in the animated shows that have since been featured in the live-action shows / movies. Now, there are a few characters that I will not be including on this list. One of them being Rex, mainly because technically he appeared in live action first. I know, like, the character Rex didn't, but Tamora Morrison plays all of the clones. All the clones look alike, so that's what Rex would look like, just with short blonde hair. Yes, he was in the Ahsoka Tano show, but that was just his armor, and it was just a voiceover by Tamora Morrison. He looked great, but we didn't really see his face, and we all know what his face would look like, so for that reason, I am not including Rex on this list. I'm also going to be only including canon animated shows. So characters like Boba Fett, who did make their first appearance in an animated short in the Star Wars Holiday Special, I will not be including him on this list simply because that is no longer canon.
I am Boba Fett. The ship you seek is nearby.
Was the Holiday Special ever canon? Nah, I don't think so. And General Grievous from the 2D animated Clone Wars show will also not be included, again, because that is no longer canon. With that being said, I will be including Thrawn. Even though he did make his first appearance in a series of novels, Heir to the Empire, the version of Thrawn in Ahsoka is based on the Star Wars Rebels version. So for that reason, I will be including him. Also, I will be mainly ranking them on how accurate they look compared to their animated version, but I will also be taking into account their characteristics, their personality. Do they feel like the actual character? And that will come into play with a couple characters, but not a lot. And yes, I am keeping in mind that Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars are stylized animations. So even characters that first appeared in live action that have been featured in those animated shows are stylized. They look a little bit different, sometimes even a little bit wonky. So yes, I'm going to be taking that into consideration, that because the animation is stylized, they might feel a little wonky in live action.
Sometimes things are just that important.
However, there are just certain decisions that were made when adapting these characters into live action that just kind of break the canon, and they just look super wonky. Like some characters, the race of the character have been featured in live action before, and they look nothing like the race that has since been featured. They look completely different. You wouldn't even guess that they are the same species or race or whatever as the alien that has since been featured in the movies. And you guys gotta keep in mind that these shows, these animated shows, are canon. They did take place within the Star Wars universe. So when certain decisions are made, there's certain changes like a character's hair length, eye color, or if a character's part of a species that we've already seen in live action that doesn't look anything like the species that we've already seen, that kind of is distracting, and it kind of takes me out of it a little bit, and to me it fucks with the canon a little bit. Anyway, I'm done fucking babbling. Let's get into the list. And coming in at number 15 is the fifth brother. Now earlier I was talking about certain inconsistencies that to me kind of break the canon and don't line up with the animation, and I'm not just talking about like face shape. You know, we all know the Count Dooku example, all right? His face isn't that long compared to the live action. I'm talking about the height here. Fifth brother is really tall in Star Wars Rebels, and I don't know what they were thinking when they casted this short motherfucker, but he's just a short guy. I'm pretty sure he's smaller than Reva. Granted, I don't know how tall the actress for Reva is, but she didn't seem very tall, and the fifth brother is taller than like the likes of Maul. I'm pretty sure he was taller than Kanan and Ahsoka. So the fact that he's a short motherfucker in this shit is really distracting. It was a really bad casting. Not only that, the markings on his face didn't line up at all. It just looks like they put a coat of green paint over his face and they just called it good. They're like, all right, cool. You're good. The only reason I recognized him from the animated shows was because of the helmet. If he didn't have that helmet from the animated shows, I wouldn't have any idea who the fuck he was supposed to be unless I heard his name first. There's just too many little things that don't quite line up with the animated character that just aren't side effects of the animation being stylized. Things like the height and the markings on his face just don't make any sense for me. And for that reason, he's on the bottom of this list.
I will get what I deserve.
Coming in at number 14 is the Grand Inquisitor. Now, a lot of people would have this on the bottom of the list. This is an ugly version of the Grand Inquisitor. Not saying the Grand Inquisitor's, you know, good to look at in general, but which one would you rather look at? All right, this one or this one? I'm just saying. Now, the only reason he's above the fifth brother is because I do feel like they got more things right adapting this character than they did the fifth brother. I think they got the height right. The height is great. The skin tone's great. They tried to do the same facial markings. I saw they at least put effort into it. Even though he doesn't sound exactly like his animated counterpart, you can still tell that the actor tried to at least do an impression. But as far as positives go, that is about it. This was really bad, dude. Oh my god. I mean, not as bad as The Fifth Brother, but it's pretty fucking bad. And the thing is I actually know exactly what went wrong when designing this character. One of my main problems I do have with this character, and it's not just the fucking Humpty Dumpty head or whatever, it's the fact that his race, the Powin, have been featured in live action before. He's supposed to look similar, or if not exactly like this. Not this fucking Humpty Dumpty bullshit. When looking at the animated character and the live action version of the species Powin, you can tell that Rebels is definitely a stylized version of whatever the fuck this ugly mug is. So when I heard they were going to be bringing him into live action, I thought, great, there's already pretty much a live action version of him. He should look great. I was fucking wrong. And the thing that went wrong was they didn't realize that his race has already been featured in live action. There's an interview with the guy who did the makeup design or whatever. I don't know who the fuck he is, but I'll play the clip for you right here.
The Grand Inquisitor. This character was first introduced in animation, and our challenge was interpreting the designs to bring them to live action. In animation, you have a lot of creative freedom to exaggerate proportions and stylize the character for dramatic appeal. But the qualities that make him look great in animation make it really hard to translate into live action. So our approach was to reverse engineer the design. Imagine that the live action version came first and the animated version came second. The challenge was to literally think backwards, starting with the animated character and figuring out how those shapes might have been inspired by a physical costume. This gave us the license to fit the design to a real person without changing the idea. So once we had this figured out, our next challenge was making it work on an actor. And again, we were faced with more compromises. Once the actor is cast, the costume needs to fit to the actor's proportion. In this case, Rupert Friend. Rupert is muscular and lean, but not impossibly lean like the animated character. The large armored chest and shoulder pieces were really challenging because we had to make sure Rupert could perform well with them on. Likewise, we could only do so much with this prosthetic head makeup. In animation, the Grand Inquisitor had an impossibly tall, narrow head. There was no way we could achieve that in a real person without resorting to digital enhancement or surgery.
Are you sure about that?
You know, weirdly enough, I agree with everything he just said. When bringing a character from animation into live action, you gotta take into account that the animation is stylized. Certain things are over-exaggerated. The nose, the head shape, with Count Dooku, it's elongated. But the character, his race, has already been featured in live action. What are you doing? That's one of the things that annoys me a lot about Disney Star Wars, is they just hire people who just know nothing about Star Wars. It's ridiculous. And he talks about how they didn't want to apply too many prosthetics so the character could still move around and be more, I guess, active. But the thing is he is still stiff as fuck in the show. He's constantly fucking walking like this the entire time. It's like, what are we doing? He's still stiff. You might as well apply more prosthetics if he's just gonna be stiff and non-acrobatic in the fucking show anyway. He does absolutely nothing. He just sits there and talks. The coolest thing he did was bring out his fucking lightsaber and it spun. That was the only thing he did in the entire show. The rest of the time, he's just standing like this, all stiff, just talking. So what the fuck? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. Moving on. Coming in at number 13 is Saw Gerrera. Now, on the surface, there isn't really a lot to complain about when they adapted this character from animation. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the first Clone Wars character that was adapted into animation. And on the surface, again, they did great. In the shows, he's a black male, curly hair. They casted a black male, Forrest Whitaker. I could argue, or some people could argue, that the skin tone doesn't quite match up, but you could just say he got more tan, he spent more time in the sun or whatever, and he got darker, so whatever. Easy explanation, right? But there's just one continuity error that bothers me immensely, and I just don't get it. It's the fucking eyes. In Clone Wars, he has green eyes, of course, and even in Rebels, after he appeared in Rogue One, his first live-action appearance, they modeled him after Forrest Whitaker, and they gave him the green eyes. But in fucking Rogue One, he doesn't have the green eyes. Even in Andor, he doesn't have green eyes. I love Andor. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing bad to say about Andor, but it's just so distracting. Right foot creep. I was saying earlier, what am I doing? Right foot creep? What the fuck? Right foot creep. Whatever. I'm still going to be doing this while I'm talking about the eyes, okay? Because the next character on this list has the same fucking problem, all right? It is extremely distracting. To me, it kind of fucks with the canon a little bit. It's an inconsistency. It's a continuity error, and I hate it. It's super distracting, and for that reason, he is lower on this list.
It's a trap.
Coming in at number 12 is Jason Syndulla. Now, just like Saw Gerrera, on the surface, there isn't really anything to complain about. He has the green hair, same skin tone, or well, maybe not Saw Gerrera had the same skin tone, but still, like, he's the same skin tone. He'd be like, the point that he shows up in Ahsoka, he's the right age, but it's the fucking eyes. Like, what are we doing? We've done this twice now. Maybe there's just something I don't know about. Like, maybe there's like a legal problem with making kids put on too much makeup or eye contacts or whatever. I don't fucking know. I really don't know if that's a thing or not, but still, it's super distracting. It's a continuity error that I notice, and it's like, it's very distracting every single time Jason is on screen. I'm like, doesn't fucking have the right colored eyes, just like in the animation. You gave him the green hair. Why not commit to the fucking other... Oh my god. I just don't really have a lot to say about Jason. I think I have less complaints than Saw. Just the only real complaint, it's a continuity error. The complaint I have is a continuity error. The eyes just don't match up. And for that reason, he is lower on this list.
Listen to the waves.
Now, at number 11, we have CAD Bane. Now, initially, when I saw this version of CAD Bane, I gotta tell you, I didn't really like it. But to be honest with you, it's kind of since grown on me. But there's a couple things that do kind of fuck with the continuity for me anyway. And certain things I just felt like given more time, they could have done better. One of the main problems he does have is just like the Grand Inquisitor, his race has, or his species, whatever the fuck you want to call it, his species has been featured in live action before. And the thing is the reason he is up higher on this list is even though he doesn't quite look like that species of alien, he still looks pretty similar. But things like his skin tone, like he's not the right shade of blue, which could be argued that because he's in a different lighting, he's a little bit of a lighter blue, which, okay, fair. But like his teeth constantly sticking out was kind of like a weird distraction for me. I don't know why they decided to do that. I don't know if it was a thing they couldn't control or not. But there are things that I do like about it. I do like that he does sound exactly like the animated version. CAD Bane is supposed to be a much older version of the character that did appear in Clone Wars and in Bad Batch, so he is a little bit slower. He's a very old man. I think he's supposed to be like in his 90s at this point. So he does seem a little bit more slim, and he has a little bit of a hunch to him, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, maybe I was just seeing it, but like there's certain character details that I did feel like, yeah, this is an older CAD Bane, and I did like that about it.
I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you.
Now, coming in at number 10 is Ahsoka Tano. Now, a lot of people might actually have Ahsoka higher on their list, but for me, there is just too many continuity errors that I noticed with this adaptation that are just way too distracting. On a whole, I think they nailed the casting. I think Rosario Dawson was perfect, and I think the makeup on her face-wise is amazing. The Leku design, we'll get into that in a sec, but like the makeup or the painting on it looks great. The age that the character's supposed to be, the age of Rosario Dawson matches continuity-wise. Like, taking all of that into account, perfect. There's just one little thing that annoys me every single time I see her on screen. It's the fucking Leku, or Montrals, or Headtails, whatever the fuck you want to call them. They are not the right length. Now, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. This did improve. They definitely saw that this was a problem, because when she first appeared in The Mandalorian, they were way too short. Like, way too short. Like, they needed to do something. They were the length of like Clone Wars Season 1 Ahsoka. Let me just show you two pictures, okay? This is Ahsoka in Star Wars Rebels, okay? Now, The Mandalorian and the Ahsoka show takes place after Star Wars Rebels. This is Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. You cannot tell me that that isn't distracting. Now, granted, they did improve this in Ahsoka. They are much longer in the Ahsoka show. They're just a little bit shorter than the animated version of her. But for me, it's close enough. She definitely does look better in the Ahsoka show. But because they really fucked up in The Mandalorian, it kind of bumps her down a couple notches. And also, it's still not quite the right length. So for those reasons, she's not quite up in the top 10. Or I mean, I guess she is in the top 10, but she's literally at the bottom of the top 10.
I didn't expect to see you here.
I'm an old friend of the family.
Coming in at number 9 is Thrawn. Now, from this point forward, there isn't really any continuity errors when it comes to, head tail length or skin tone or eye color. They do really good from this point on the list. Now, Thrawn, even though there could be argued that the face shape of the face muscles don't quite line up, the putty or the facial prosthetics that they did have in the show, I think do kind of match well with the fact that if he was in live action first and he did look like this, the animated version does look like a stylized, a more exaggerated version of the prosthetics that they did put on the actor. I think they could have done better with it, but it's definitely there. You can definitely see it, and I think they did a pretty good job. Now, the main problem I do have with this version is his fucking gut, man. It's so distracting. Especially in Star Wars Rebels, where he definitely seems to pride himself in physical health. And in the Ahsoka show, he just apparently grew a gut, which again, isn't really a continuity thing. That could just be explained that Thrawn got fat. People get fat, people get chubby as they get older. It's fair enough, but it's still really distracting. And for that reason, he's lower on this list, but still a pretty good adaptation of Thrawn from the Rebels show.
What was first just a dream has become a frightening reality for those who may oppose us.
Coming in at number 8 is Hera Syndulla. Now, unlike Ahsoka, her fucking head tails are the right length. They look perfect. I think they really did good on the casting. I think the actress who plays her, I don't have all the names for the actors and actresses, I'm sorry. I think she did a really good job on portraying Hera. The only real problem I have with this version of Hera is the makeup. I don't want to sound like a fucking expert when it comes to makeup, but it just looks so bland. It kind of just looks like they put a fucking thick coat of green paint on her face and then called it good. Honestly, I don't really know how to explain it. It just looks, I don't want to say bad, it just looks extremely bland and unrealistic. It looks fake, and I know it is fake, but it looks fake within the world of Star Wars. Overall, it's pretty good. Not a lot of complaints. It's a really good adaptation. Just the blandness kind of is distracting, but not really any real complaints.
I'm not just gonna sit around and do nothing, Lieutenant.
But you can't leave without authorization.
Watch me.
Coming in at number 7 is Huyang. Now, on the surface, as far as character design and head shape and how he looks exactly like his animated counterpart. There's just one thing that I wish that they kept, and that's how dirty and run down he looks in Clone Wars. In Clone Wars, you really get the sense that yes, this droid is thousands of years old. This is one hell of an old droid. He's dirty, he's rusty, he looks old. You could tell just by looking at him, damn, this is one old motherfucker. In the Ahsoka show, he's much more shiny and clean, and until they tell you in the show that he's thousands of years old, I guarantee a lot of people just wouldn't have guessed that. They would have just guessed that, yeah, there's just a newer, modern droid or what have you.
I told you, I taught almost every youngling at the Jedi Temple, including your master.
How old are you?
Old enough to know that the relationship between a master and an apprentice is as challenging as it is meaningful.
Now, that doesn't really fuck with the continuity. You could just say that he got cleaned up. It's not really a big of a deal. It doesn't fuck with the continuity that much, in fact, at all. It's just a simple explanation. They cleaned him up, he looks shinier, cool. But my personal preference was I just wish they would have kept that old, rundown version of Huyang. I think that would have been much more cooler in live action.
Do you know how to build a lightsaber?
Yes?
Will you teach me?
No.
Coming in at number 6 is Bo-Katan Kryze. Now, when I first saw her in live action, I fucking flipped, dude. I recognized her immediately, especially, she had the helmet on, granted, and we'll get to how she looks facial wise, but the helmet and the armor design is fucking perfect. They nailed it. And I gotta give them props for casting the voice actress from Clone Wars and Rebels in live action. She's a perfect Bo-Katan Kryze. She kind of does look like Bo-Katan.
Careful, princess.
You are a clone. I've heard your voice thousands of times.
And number 5 is Sabine Wren. This was perfect casting. What can I say? I never really noticed before, but they definitely modeled Sabine to look more of the Asian descent. I always just kind of assumed she was just a white female, but really looking at the animated version, yeah, she kind of does look Asian. So when they casted an Asian, I'm assuming she's Asian anyway. Call me racist if you want in the fucking comments. Correct me, wherever the fuck her ethnicity is. Regardless, she looks like Sabine. The armor as well is perfect. I thought they nailed it. I really thought the actress really embodied the right amount of cockiness, charisma, confidence with a tad bit of bitch in there. What can I say? Sabine's a bitch. She's kind of a bitch. She's a bitch to Ezra. She's a bitch to Kanan. She's even a bitch to Hera sometimes, all right?
All right, look, Commander, I have my orders. I'm gonna need you to pull over.
Well, here's a new order. Get lost.
Coming in at number 4 is Ezra Bridger. Now, just like Sabine, the casting was fucking perfect. Like, when I was always thinking what Ezra would look like if we ever saw him again after Rebels, I always imagined him with a beard. And what do you know? He has a goddamn beard. And not only does he have a beard, he has like the same kind of beard as his father from Rebels. And one of the things I didn't really like about Ezra in the animated show was he was too corny, he was too loud, he was kind of saying a lot of stuff that probably didn't need to be said. He was just annoying. He had that annoying voice, you know what I mean?
I don't fear you.
Then you will die braver than most.
And I like how the actor just was kind of like, fuck it. You know what? I'm just going to go full on with it. I'm going to sound annoying. I'm going to sound cocky. I'm going to say things that maybe probably shouldn't be said out loud. I'm going to have that annoying voice to me. And he went all in on it. And even though it kind of annoyed me in the animated show, I just love that it was translated really well in the show. I know that's like a weird thing to like, even though I didn't like it in the animation, but like I hadn't seen Ezra for so long and I didn't care. I did like the character of Ezra as a whole, and just see him again, I was just like, this looks, sounds, and feels like Ezra. I don't care. Good on the actor for doing a great job.
Ahsoka took me on as her apprentice.
She what? Why? I mean, congratulations. Really?
Go on.
No, that's great.
Coming at number 3 is Ryder Azadi. Now, I will say this character had an extremely unfair advantage compared to the other characters on this list. The reason being is the character was literally meant to look like the voice actor who played him in Star Wars Rebels. I'm blanking on the name right now, but he plays Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob. So if they were ever going to bring him into live action, logic says cast that guy. And that's exactly what they did. So when he was on screen, he looked and sounded like Ryder Azadi, super recognizable. And it's a little bit unfair once again, because he was modeled after the actor. So I don't really have a lot to say about Ryder, because there's not really any complaints. It looks and sounds like Ryder. Again, a little bit unfair, but fuck it. It still looks good. Great transition into live action. No complaints.
May their courage and commitment never be forgotten.
Coming at number 2 is Chopper. Fun fact, his first live action appearance actually wasn't in the Ahsoka show. He actually first appeared in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He was in the background on Yavin 4, just as a little Easter egg. There isn't really any complaints. It's Chopper. How could you ever mistaken him for anybody else? Seeing these two pictures side by side, it's all like, if I were to ask you which one is animated and which one is live action, most people would it'd probably take them a couple seconds. Like, it's you know, it's not a hard question, but it does take you a second. You're like, I think they completely nailed it. A lot of things could have gone wrong. He has his fucking hands. He has the same fucking voice. He does the fucking little waddle with his hands on his fucking side or whatever. Amazing. All right, they did fucking great. No complaints once again.
No, I did not go through your stuff. Did you look under the backup battery?
Now, coming at number 1 is my boy Zeb, man. So oddly enough, ironically enough, the character at number 1 has the least amount of screen time in live action than anybody else on this list. He was in a 3-second cameo in The Mandalorian, and yet he is somehow the best adaptation from a character in animation into live action. It is perfect, man. When I think of how the animated shows are stylized, and when they take a live action character and it's adapted into the animation and it's a little bit stylized, they're recognizable, but you could definitely tell they look a little weird to match the animation style. That's exactly what you want to do when you do the complete opposite, when you take an animated character and then you put them into live action. Zeb is the perfect example on how to do that right. In Rebels, he looks a little bit more smooth, a little bit more cute. You know, his beard doesn't really have any inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying? Like he looks like a cute little monster. And then in Star Wars The Mandalorian, there's more inconsistencies in the beard. He looks a little bit more scary. He's a little bit more of a hulking figure. He's a little bit more wide. He has more of a... You know what I mean? You guys know what I'm trying to say. They brought the voice actor back from Star Wars Rebels to voice him in The Mandalorian. And granted, I will say that because he is a CGI character, he does have an unfair advantage compared to the other characters on this list. But it doesn't matter. He still looks the best, so I'm putting him at number 1. Fucking deal with it.
I like your attitude. Good luck. You're gonna need it.
Let me know if you guys want to see me come back and do more ranking videos. I could do a ranking of the Star Wars movies or the MCU movies or DC movies or what have you. I don't fucking care. Just let me know. Comment down below. Ignore that noise. Some people are picking up garbage outside and it's very loud. I don't even know if you guys can hear that. I might just sound like a fucking psychopath right now, but who cares? Like and subscribe if you fucking like this video. I put up 3 fingers for some reason. I don't fucking know why. I'm bad at outros. I'm really bad at outros. Get the fuck out of here. Why are you still here? Leave.